everybody, welcome to Viewfinder Sports Episode 2, the podcast where I talk about my photos and give you insight into what makes them compositionally appealing and what was going through my mind when I took them. Today we're going to be talking about 4 photos from the same baseball game, so 4 baseball photos, and we're going to get started with this photo. So all of these photos are untitled, that's why we're just going 1, 2, 3, 4. So photo 1 is compositionally appealing because the player is in an athletic position and he's kind of barely touching the ground as the back right foot, the toe is like barely touching the ground and the left foot is up in the air and he's clearly crossing home plate. But it's the emotion in the photo. This is the run that sort of started it all, started a comeback, but the catcher is in front. Now normally when there's a charge at home plate, for those of you who don't know baseball, normally the catcher is throwing the ball and he's trying to get the runner out. But sometimes the runner comes through unimpeded. So it's compositionally appealing because in that background, the catcher is just kind of looking over his shoulder at the runner as he's crossing, and the runner's looking down at the plate as he's crossing, so it's like everything is on the runner. The runner is in the light with his white pants, his green jersey. The light is on him coming from the right and the left, like lights everywhere coming from the stadium lights. And he's just in that pose, as that running pose, and not just standing still. He's crossing home plate with a purpose. And the catcher is like dejected or looking behind him like, aw man. It's like, I thought we were going to get this out, or I thought we were going to do this, but the runner is just unimpeded as he's coming through, but all eyes are on him and the home plate, and it's significant in the fact that he's crossing home plate at this moment. The story behind this, though, like what was going through my mind, that's the fun part. So I was sitting not directly behind home plate, I was in the bleachers on the right side, sort of diagonally from home plate. And I was sitting there on the front row. It wasn't a very crowded game, so I had a little bleacher section I could able to sit down and almost be to myself. I had the camera down. It's like 6-1 at this point in the game. I don't remember exactly what inning it was, but nothing much was really happening. It was a slow day for the team. And then the batter's coming up to bat, and the boss's daughter comes up and sits next to me because I kind of helped out the team last year, so I got to know her, and she comes by, she sits down, she asks, can I mess with the camera, can I like look through? I'm like, yeah, sure, not really doing much. So she's looking through the camera, taking some photos, and it's just wide angle. She's asking, how do I zoom, how do you do this? And so she's just taking some test shots, messing around with the camera a little bit, not touching it in the settings, obviously, not touching it in the settings, but she's just taking some shots, and then the batter swings, and you just hear the crack of the bat. It's like I'm watching her more than I'm really watching the game at this point, because I'm trying to make sure she doesn't drop the camera. I put the strap over her neck, so she has it, but she's holding it like she's a young girl, so she's holding it like this, like not holding it like you would. So I'm more watching her, and then I just hear a crack of the bat, and people start cheering as the ball flies past the infield, and the runner's on second. The number 29 who's coming through home plate in the photo, he's on second. The ball went far enough for him to round third. And I'm like, okay, he'll just go to third, he'll stay there, and then I'll get the camera back and we'll look for the run. He rounds third. I see this, and I'm like, okay, I take the camera, strap still on her neck. But I move closer, I take the camera, and I just flip it vertically because I couldn't really get it horizontally in my hands. So I flip it vertically for one. And I just look through the viewfinder. I focus on home plate. I don't focus on the runner. I focus on home plate, on the catcher. And as he comes through. And once he gets in the frame, focus a little bit more and then and I get him crossing home plate vertically, but I get him crossing home plate. Because sometimes I like to have the horizontal shots more because it allows more in the frame. But vertical shots obviously can be fire too. So I get him coming through, and I used all three in the Google Drive and everything, but I like this one the most. The player forms a bit of a triangle in his position, and I got this without even having the camera in my hands at the moment it happened. I had to take the camera and focus ahead of where he was going to get the shot. But hey, turns out to be a great freaking shot. So, next on the list is a bit more subtle. So photo number 2, untitled number 2, is compositionally appealing because it still sort of has 3 planes to it. It has the background where you see what would be the right fielder all the way in the back. You have the second baseman with his foot on the bag in his crunched over athletic position, getting ready to run or catch the ball, which he is. He's catching the ball from what would be the left fielder, catching the ball, and I guess it's a little obvious where I am at this point. I'm like straight perpendicular to second base and third base, like I'm on that line, not in the dugout, but I'm just like out in the on the side, right on that line. And you get him catching the ball. You kind of have the arm of the opposing coach's arm, just a little bit in frame, so it forms a small sort of eye diagonal from the hand, the arm, to the player, the second baseman, to the player, the right fielder, and just gives you a sense of what's going on. Because where's the opposing player? This play happened so fast that the guy on first, the runner from the opposing team, who when the ball was hit should have been running to second, because it's a forced play, he's on first, he has to get out of the way for the next runner. Little baseball rules. He's nowhere to be seen in the shot. And this was taken horizontally, but he's nowhere to be seen in the shot. Because this play happened fast enough that he got out before he can even get over halfway to the bag. He was out before he started running. And that's what so subtle about this, because you're like, what's really going on? Well, what's really going on is you have a player on the bag with the ball and no opposition. It's an out, but how is it an out? And what's going through my mind when I'm taking this shot is I was trying to get the fast play. I actually saw the ball get hit, and I put the ball up. I put the camera up, and I'm facing second base. I focus and I'm shooting, but I forget we already had 2 outs. I want to see him throw it to first. I was trying to get that play. I wanted to get the double play in my head, but I ended up getting just a relatively subtle out to show that this inning is over in a way, especially in the way the composition reads, and the way obviously what's going through my mind is this inning is now over. the other team, isn't on the field at all. It can't be seen. You can't technically tell that's the other team's coach by his arm. But it's like, nobody's on the field other than this guy catching the ball, tagging the base, which is an out because the runner has to get there. So this one needs a little more baseball terminology to it for what's going on, a little more of the rules, and a little more of what I was aiming to shoot, but what I ended up getting, which is why I'm also showing the next shot. The shot right after it. He's already touched base. So this runner in the far right is out. But the guy who caught it and already tagged base is already moving. And the runner is like already just got in frame. Like he just got in frame, but this guy's already moving off the bag. So that's why I'm showing both, just to give you context of what makes this one so compositionally appealing, but also what's going on and what I was hoping would be a double play, but what I got is an out without anybody on the field. Such a subtle out, in a way I kind of got lucky with that shot. So photo number 4 is compositionally appealing because of the way the catcher is positioned, with the umpire looking behind him and the batter ducking. So the ball was thrown from the pitcher, and it was a bit of an errant throw, as not crossing home plate. So the batter was ducking, and the catcher has to reach out and contort his body to make sure that ball doesn't get past him. Because if that ball gets past him, runners on base can advance as quickly as they care to before that ball gets put in play. So the catcher is saving the day here, but he's really reaching out to catch this ball, and it's such a dynamic pose and not one you normally see catchers in. And then you have the umpire just kind of looking at where the ball is and looking at his arm and following that path to where the ball is at the top, and have the catcher's face is the only face visible. The batter's not really visible, and the umpire's just following it. So it all kind of leads to the catcher. Like everyone's like the umpire's looking this way, so it's looking at the catcher making this catch, and he's right in between all three of them. So sort of like the outfield one with the 3 baseball players. He's right there in the middle, and he's in the most dynamic pose. And it helps that the umpire is looking towards him to keep your eyes on the catcher. Now, what was going through my head with this one is I was literally asked to get a couple more pictures of the catcher because we were kind of lacking on him. So I wanted to get a close-up shot of him making a play, and I was hoping for a normal out, like just a normal strike down the middle, catch. And where I took the first photo number 1, I was only a couple feet away from where I took that one. I moved over just a little bit, and I was standing, well, behind the net, but right at the corner or so of the opposing team's dugout. So I was like perpendicular or straight to home plate. Me, gate, net, opposing team's dugout. I ended up getting him catching the ball in such a dynamic pose that I'm like, hey, if it works, it works. The last photo we'll be looking at is a little subtle, but it shows a play being made in a graceful way. So photo number 4 is compositionally appealing because you have the player in focus in that dynamic position of throwing the ball. This is the third baseman running up. He got a ground ball and he's throwing it to first base. It should be a simple play, but he's not touching the ground. He's levitating almost in this still image. He is levitating, but he jumped, and I got it as he was jumping, throwing the ball, and in the back behind him you can make out the two on the opposing team's jersey as the batter is running, and he's like right next to him, but he's so far away running at that angle towards first base that you can see where he's pointing, where he's throwing that ball, first base. And then it's just subtle, but it's appealing because he's still in that dynamic pose. He's almost directly on center, but he's not touching the ground. He's not just standing there. He's jumping, feet crossed, turned, body turned, throwing the ball. And then like subtle shadows on the bottom showing it. So it just is a subtle sort of, it's not like photo number 2, it's just subtle. Now what was going through my head with this is that quick plays are sort of hard to get, especially with a zoom lens. So I had the camera up, I was ready for it, I was hoping to get a relatively quick play. And when he hit the grounder, I was able to focus on third. I was focusing on the guy running. And I was snapping as soon as he went bent down to pick up the ball. I started snapping, I started shooting. He gets the ball, scoops it up, and makes the throw. And it was relatively simple. I was in the dugout for this one. I was on the side of the dugout, so I was actually kind of a couple feet away from where I took photo number 2. I was just in the dugout trying to get an unimpeded shot of an infielder really making a play and not just standing there making a catch, because there are some plays that happen extremely fast where the ball is hit on the line drive and they just right out of the air. It's like, how do you expect me to get a shot of that if I can't focus on you fast enough? So I made sure it was unimpeded, everything was out of my line of sight. He hits the ground ball right past, focus, shoot, done. Anyway, that is all for today's episode. I know the last 3 didn't have so much story behind them as the first one did, but they all were compositionally appealing in their own way, and the story behind them, while not as entertaining, was still a thought process on how to get this photo and how to be in a spot for an action shot. I still enjoy being able to talk about that and bring that into a perspective of what's going on, because being a photographer is more than having a camera and having a freaking lens. It's knowing where to go and what to do. So if you enjoy this podcast and you want to see more, like and subscribe. I'm Timmy2, and this is Viewfinder.